One of the incredible things about games is the way they can let you experience other people's stories, and that's exactly what this game does. Welcome to the magic of Rakuen.
Once upon a time, there lived a boy in a faraway land called Morisora's Forest.
Rakuen is a touching adventure game by Laura Shigihara. Fun fact, Shigihara actually works mostly as a composer and even did the soundtrack for Plants vs. Zombies.
Multi-talented! The game tells the story of an unnamed boy currently living in hospital who begins helping the other hospital residents find closure. We don't want to give away too much of the story because part of this game's delight is the sense of discovery and the way things unfold, but we will say there is a fantasy world and your mum gets to travel with you.
Speaking of mums, an important note for grown-ups. This game touches on some heavy themes, though often in a way that's rather implicit. It's always wise to be aware.
Absolutely, Darren, the more you know. As you move about, there's a fantastic sense of mystery to the various characters you meet, and this makes the game compelling to play. Everyone feels so interesting and real, with imperfections and rich backstories, even the non-human characters.
In my experience, non-humans are some of the most interesting people.
Too right, Darren. It was delightful seeing all the different cute, creative characters. You really feel the care that's gone into crafting this game.
Yeah, and I liked delving into people's lives to try and figure out why they act the way they do. And there were some quite moving stories too. I may have teared up once or twice.
They gave my circuits a bit of a wobble.
Oh, Darren. There were some spooky moments too. I will admit my heart skipped a beat once or twice. It can be so tense walking down dark hallways with the low, empty hum enveloping you. It might be a tad too intense for younger spawnlings, but the great thing is, this is the perfect sort of game to play with a grown-up, so don't be afraid to ask if they'd like to sit with you.
Gaming together is the best kind of gaming, especially for spooked. Rakuen is really clever with creating different atmospheres and having you feel the right thing for the right moment. And it spans quite a range of emotions too, from playfully happy to painful regret.
A big part of what makes the game so affecting is the sound design, and it makes sense that the sound would be good because of the developer's musical background.
You could say that it's instrumental in creating the emotions.
Well, sounds right to me, Rad.
Music to my ears.
This game is so ambitious. It aims to tell several emotionally charged stories at a controlled pace using very simple gameplay. There's no difficult platforming or tricky aiming. You'll mostly be walking around talking to people and bringing them things.
Even if you don't play a lot of games, you'll have no trouble enjoying this, although prepare to do quite a bit of reading. As is typical for games in this genre, there are quite a lot of text boxes, but because the story is told quite cleverly through conversations, I didn't really mind. In fact, a few things that would normally bug me with this style of game just didn't.
I know what you mean. Usually, I'm not really a fan of running back and forth over the same areas to do what is essentially a fetch quest, but here it didn't feel quite as tedious. And I think it's because you never felt like you were being held in an area just to make the game longer. There was a generous variety of locations.
Many of the quests are rather multi-layered, requiring you to do several things for other people before you can complete the original quest. This also helps the game feel interesting, as there's continually new problems to solve. There's a hint system where you can ask Mum for help, but she only reminds you of the main quest.
Yeah, that was a tiny bit frustrating because sometimes I'd forget what the new subquest was and then get lost in areas for a while, but it was never for too long.
I felt like they could have tightened that up just a little bit. There is one area that gives you a map, but it was only kind of helpful for telling me where I needed to go anyway.
However, I loved how this used elements of retro gameplay in an updated way. It was like cherry-picking the best parts of that era.
Yeah, it's all the joyous discovery without the frustration. This is such a lovely little experience. Guys, I'm giving it 4.5 out of 5 rubber chickens.
Yeah, this is a triumph. It's cleverly and thoughtfully made. Whilst I do think they overcooked some of the emotional points just a little bit, I was still impressed by its scope. I'm giving it 4.5 out of 5 rubber chickens.